Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. In this video today we're checking out a video titled 50 words Australians pronounce weird. So this is the American versus Australian pronunciation. So I mean there's going to be some words that I think are pronounced weird. Maybe some that I think are pronounced pretty good, pronounced normally compared to the Americans, because I know we pronounce some words very differently to the Americans as well. So if you guys want more reaction videos like this, drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and yeah, so if you guys want more reaction videos like this, drop a like, subscribe, and let's get right into it for today, my friend. Let's go.
Emu, 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 emu,
Emu.
emu, 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 mew, 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 mew.
See, I agree with him there. Emu is the way I pronounce it.
Emu. What is good, y'all? Tristan here, and today I am back with a new video. We are talking about 50 words that Americans and Australians just pronounce differently. As you can tell by the intro, the first word that Americans and Australians just pronounce differently is emu. So Americans pronounce it emu, Australians pronounce it emu. I recently did a video where I said emu and...
Okay, I say emu, but emu, I guess that's not that big of a difference.
About lost it in the comment section. Everyone going after me for saying emu wrong or saying it the American way. It was actually that video, me saying emu, that kind of helped inspire this video. I had a bunch of you reach out to me saying that I should do a video about words that are pronounced differently. The first one to reach out to me was a subscriber named Craig, so shout out to you, Craig. But Craig, when he reached out to me, he sent me about, I don't know, 5 to 10 words that...
Yeah, that's also something they pronounce differently, Americans, is they say Craig, where's Craig? Like, it's Craig. I don't know how they get Craig. Like, it sounds like Greg, but yeah, that one always throws me off, man. That's just so confusing.
We pronounce differently, one of them being his very own name.
Yeah.
He said, the way I say it, just have been saying it, Craig, is wrong, or not how they say it in
That's
Australia.
so weird,
In Australia,
Craig. I don't get it.
Craig. They really emphasize that
Craig,
A,
yeah.
Craig. Whereas in America, we just kind of pronounce that name as like as if it had an E, like C-R-E-G, Craig. Anyways, those are the first two, but we got 48 more awesome words. So here we go. Number 3 is puma, or as they would say in Australia, puma. Like the cat,
Puma.
or the apparel company, or there's a
Yeah, we say
petrol station
puma
line, kind
over
of like
here
7-Elevens
too.
here in Australia called pumas, or what they say puma, like a little gun, like pew pew pew. I don't know, that's what I think of when I think of it, but yeah, pew pew puma. Number 4 is buoy, or as they say it in Australia, boy. Like the little thing that floats in the water, we pronounce that buoy. Here in Australia, they pronounce it boy. Like,
honestly, I've never heard that word before. Like I've seen that thing, but I've never heard anyone actually describe it, so I can't comment on that one.
Boy and girl, kind of, yeah, same thing, boy. Before I say more of these words, I just need to make a quick, disclaimer and say that not all Americans say this, the American way, and not all Australians say these words the, Australian way. I ran this video, this list by a couple Australians. There was, 4 or 5 Australians. Not all of them pronounced all the words the exact same. There are a couple words that, a couple of them said it the American way. There's actually, 1 or 2 words on this list that I say the Australian way, but in general, I think most Australians say it the Australian way, and most Americans will say it the American way in terms of this video. Alright, there we go. That was the disclaimer. Number 5 is Nutella. This yummy stuff. Americans, like me,
Nutella.
I would pronounce this
Nutella.
Nutella, like it's Nutella. Here in Australia, they pronounce it Nutella, like a nut. Yeah, Nutella.
Okay, I have to say, the Australian ones, they're kind of saying it very similar to us. We say it's very similar to them. Whereas the Americans, Nutella, Craig. I hate that. It's Craig. I stand by this. It's Craig, not
Nutella.
Craig.
Number 6 is the popular card game Uno. In America, we pronounce it Uno. It's kind of like the emu one. Uno. Here, it is more pronounced like Uno. Number 7 is caramel,
Uno over
or
here.
as it said in Australia,
Caramel.
8 is tomato, or as it said in Australia, tomato. Number 9 is a crazy one. It is this stuff that you put over food and whatnot. We would call it in America
tinfoil.
aluminum.
Oh, aluminum.
Here in
Aluminum.
Australia, it is aluminium. 10 is the apparel.
Aluminium.
You put over food and whatnot. We would call it in America aluminum.
Aluminium. Yeah, we say aluminium, actually.
Here in Australia, it is aluminium. 10 is the apparel company. In America, we would pronounce this
Adidas.
as Adidas. However, here in Australia, it is Adidas. One thing I want to note real quick is a lot of these differences in pronunciations are they come from England, and so a lot of these words that Australians
Yeah,
to
I've
Americans,
noticed that.
you could almost make this whole list and say English people also say these words different. Not for all of them, but as a general rule of thumb, you could say it for most. Number 11 is this car company right
Nissan.
here. So we would pronounce this in America as Nissan. However, here in Australia, it is pronounced Nissan. Number 12 is this, I don't know, breathing.
Okay, so they say Nissan, we say Nissan, so it's fairly similar. Asthma.
respiratory condition, whatever you want to call it. In America, we call it asthma, and in Australia, it's pronounced asthma. We kind of say it more like a Z sound, like asthma, where here it's more like an S sound, like asthma. 13 is this plant. We would call it oregano in the States. However, here in Australia, it is pronounced oregano. This plant right here, I would pronounce this, or Americans would pronounce this as basil. However, in Australia, it is pronounced basil. This
a lot of them
are
very
me
similar.
And most Americans
Pecan.
pronounce this as pecan. However, in Australia, most people pronounce this as pecan. Now,
pecan? What? Pecan? I've never heard anyone say that. I've heard pecan soup.
Would pronounce this as pecan. However, in Australia, most people pronounce this as pecan. Now, number 16 is kind of an iffy one because I actually naturally say this one the Australian way, but I've heard it both ways in America. So that is apricot or apricot. So
apricot.
Apricot is like the American way, but I've always pronounced it apricot, which is how like everyone in Australia
apricot. Yeah, that's the right way to say it.
Fillet, or it's fillet if you're American.
Fillet, yeah.
Here in Australia,
fillet.
They pronounce it as fillet, so it is a fillet of
yeah, fillet of fish. Man, like a lot of them are basically the same. It's kind of crazy. I'm just surprised by how like similar the words are compared to American. What?
Fillet of fish or a fillet of fish. Fillet, fillet. Now the next two are just letters, but that is the letter Z. So I pronounce it Z, as I just said. But in Australia, they'd pronounce it Z. The next letter is this letter. H is that I would say it.
H.
However, and like some people in Australia do say H, but a lot of them here pronounce it H, like H. 20 is leisure, so me and like every American pronounces it leisure. I've never heard it pronounced any other way. However, I came here to Australia and they pronounce it leisure. The next two are countries, so
yeah, leisure. Leisure, I've heard that as well, but leisure is definitely the way to pronounce it. Leisure centers, yeah.
Iraq, we pronounce it Iraq. Here they pronounce it
Iraq.
Like we say I, they say Iraq, Iraq. Same thing for the next one, which is Iran, Iran. Yeah, just a minor difference. 23 is fragile.
Iran, yeah.
It's fragile if you're American.
Fragile.
Here in Australia, how they say it is it's fragile, like they say aisle, we say oh. 24 is missile, or as they would say it in Australia, missile. And 25 is military, or as they would say it in Australia, military. America, military, yeah. Australia, military. Now 26 is going to be the most controversial of them all, because not all Australians, I would actually say most Australians don't say this word this way, but I've heard of a couple say it, and I'm telling you, it is so wrong. It sounds, of all the ones, this is the most triggering for me. I hate it when people pronounce this word this way, and that is vitamins. Like, did you take your vitamins this morning? You know, it's healthy to take your vitamins. Some people in Australia, I don't know why, but they pronounce it vitamins. No.
Vitamins, yeah. I'm pretty much agree with the Australians and pretty much all these words compared to the Americans, actually. Man, like, there isn't one where I've like, the Americans are right so far in this video.
It can't be, it's not vitamins. That just sounds so wrong.
Vitamins is right, my friends.
Not one way is right over the other. They're just different ways of pronouncing words. But this one, I'm gonna stick by it and say vitamins is right. Vitamins, it just sounds wrong. 27. In America, we say garage. In Australia,
garage.
Some people still say garage, but a lot of people here also say garage. That one seems to be about like a 50-50 split here. It's kind of like there's a
yeah, that's like the same over here. Some people say garage, some people say garage. I say garage.
American way to say it and the English way to say it, and in Australia they kind of, I don't know, they kind of do both. 28 is this lovely striped animal right over here. I would pronounce this, Americans would pronounce this as zebra. However, in Australia they pronounce it zebra. 29 is mobile, or as they would say it in Australia, mobile. 30 is a crazy one because when I first heard it, like, I thought it was a different word. I didn't realize that they were saying the same word, just pronouncing it different, but that's cordial or cordial.
Cordial.
So yeah, in America we pronounce it cordial, whereas here in Australia it's pronounced cordial. 31 is advertisement, and the
cordial. Cordial? That one I have to give to the Americans, actually. Cordial, yeah. Cordial. That one kind of threw me off.
Whereas here in Australia it's pronounced cordial. 31 is advertisement, and the difference is like
advertisement.
Stress. So in American English we would say advertisement, and in Australian English you say advertisement.
Advertisement. Oh, okay, I say the Australian way as well. Advertisement. Advertisement. Yeah.
It's like there's more emphasis on the vert part. When we shorten that word, we refer to it as an ad. Like, oh, do you see the Super Bowl ad?
Advert.
Whereas in Australia, when they like shorten that word down, they shorten it down to advert. So like, oh, did you see that advert? 32 is depot. So yeah, Americans we pronounce it depot. In Australia they pronounce it depot. 33 is this fragile little thing that you
Vase.
put flowers in. So we would pronounce it in American English as vase, whereas here in Australia they pronounce it vase. So the way we say it.
Okay, I say vase. I say vase. I think most British people do. So that one, I don't. I
Like,
guess
it
it's
rhymes
different
with,
to
like,
both of
face,
them.
like your face, vase, vase. Whereas here it is vase, as in like phase, like it doesn't phase me. Phase, vase, face, vase, phase, vase. Yeah, I think I'm saying that right. That's gonna be, yeah, you get it. Vase, screw it. You got it. You got it already. Moving on. 34 is adult, or as they would say in Australia, adult. 35
Adult.
is mom,
Adult.
which they say in Australia as mum, but that's also English influence.
Yeah, we also say it like mum and pronounce and spell that way.
But this is kind of more than just a different pronunciation because we spell it M-O-M,
Mom.
and here in Australia
Mum.
they spell it M-U-M, so it's like, I don't know. I don't know if they pronounce it differently or if it's just a different word, but yeah. Mom. 36 is premier or premiere.
Premier.
So in American English we would say this word as premier, Australian premiere. I kind of like the way Australians say it more. I think that sounds more right, so yeah. Premier. 37 is herb, or herb. I just said it the Australian way. In American English, herb, you just don't pronounce the H at all. And in Australian English, it is herb, you do pronounce the H. 38 is scone, so this thing right here, we pronounce that in American
Scone, yes, scone. They are so good. Oh, that's making me hungry right now. I love a good scone.
English as scone, whereas in Australian English, it is pronounced scone. 39 is this car brand right here. So in America, we pronounce this Hyundai, which everyone tells me is wrong. It probably is. So we pronounce this as Hyundai. Here, they pronounce it as Hyundai. Americans make it like 2 syllables, like Hyundai. Australians 3 syllables, Hyundai. Now 40 and 41 are quite similar, but that is semi. So yeah, we say this word as semi, like with the I, we say I at the end. In Australian English, they would pronounce it semi. Semi, but yeah, I know some Americans who say it the Australian way, the semi way. In similar fashion, we have anti and anti. Americans, hard I, long I, whatever you want to say.
Anti, yeah.
Australians, anti. And similar to anti, we have aunt
auntie,
or aunt. So
aunt.
and like it goes. Americans say it both ways, but I've always said it aunt, like your aunt and uncle.
So that's so weird. Aunt, like aunt, aunt. Aunt's the correct way to say it, man.
But there are some people in America who pronounce it aunt. Here in Australia, everyone pronounces it, or at least everyone I've met has pronounced it aunt, which honestly kind of makes sense because, like, I don't know, your aunt isn't like an aunt, like she's an aunt. 43 is entrepreneur, so
entrepreneur.
Yeah, I've always pronounced this entrepreneur. In Australia, they pronounce this entrepreneur, so like entrepreneur. 44 is niche or niche. So in America, again, Americans say this both ways. I've heard Americans say niche, I've heard Americans say niche, but it's pretty common to say niche. I myself have always said niche, but in Australia, no one says niche. It is niche here in Australia. Niche, yeah. 45 is this spice right here, so I would pronounce this as turmeric. However, in Australia, they would pronounce it as turmeric, like you have the tumor,
yeah.
turmeric, you get it. Real quick, guys, I just want to say I hope you're enjoying this video, and if you are, please make sure you give it a big old like and maybe consider subscribing. You know, don't have to, but I really do appreciate it. And if you like these types of videos, I got a whole lot more videos of like comparing like America and Australia and talking about the language differences. So if you want to see those, I will link them all in the description below. Back to the video. 46 is bouquet. So I say bouquet, but like a soft O, bouquet. Here in Australia, they would pronounce it
bouquet.
A bouquet of flowers.
A bouquet of flowers, yeah.
Bouquet. 47, I don't know if it's necessarily a difference in pronunciation, but it's kind of like a word, but also pronunciation. So if you have an animal, like a dog, that is your pet. And your pet likes it when you pet them. Or that's what we would say in American English. You would say you pet your pet. You pet your dog. We use the word pet as a noun and a...
Pat your dog. I'm pretty sure we say pet, like pet your dog. Pat. I don't think I've ever heard anyone's like say pat your dog. I may be wrong here.
Here in Australia, they don't do that. They would say you pat your dog. You pat your cat. I don't know if you really pat cats, but you get it.
I guess pat
say,
makes
pat
more sense.
We would say we pet our pet. Now these last three all kind of have to do with how Australians pronounce the R sound at the end of a word. So they just don't really pronounce it. So for example, we would say car. Here in Australia, it's just like car.
We do the same thing,
they hardly say the R. And this goes for like a bunch of words. Like any word that ends in like an IR, ER, AR, in Australia, just kind of how the accent is, they just say So like doctor, butter, better. The R is not really pronounced. Well, these last two, it's kind of a question for you Australians. It's going to be controversial, but I want to ask. These two cities, so y'all have Melbourne and y'all have Cairns. Australians love to get Americans a hard time for mispronouncing these cities. We call Melbourne, Melbourne, and we call Cairns, Cairns, because there's like an R there. Well, my question...
Yeah, Melbourne. Yeah, I say Melbourne. And Cairns.
question for you is, are we actually mispronouncing these cities, or are we just saying them with an American accent? It's hard for me to say
That's
one
a good
way or
point
the
as
other,
well.
because like on one hand I'm like, all right, like whoever lives in that city gets to name the cities and like say how it's pronounced, so yes, it's Melbourne and it's Cairns. But then at the same time I'm like, if the actual name of the city, if the actual name is actually Melbourne and the actual name is actually Cairns, it wouldn't matter because the Australian accent just leaves the R off if it's ever in the last syllable of a word. So you would pronounce Melbourne, Melbourne, and you would pronounce Cairns, Cairns. Let me know in the comment section what you think. If you'd like to know anything more about Aussie slang, feel free to go check out that video right over there.
Okay, guys, make sure you go subscribe to his channel. His name is Tristan Kun. I might have said his name wrong. His link will be down in the description down below. But as for this video, I have to say I agree with the Australians for most of these pronunciations. It's pretty much the British one. I know there's obviously like a lot of history there with their connection to the United Kingdom. It's literally in the flag. You can see the Union Jack there, like in the side of the Australian flags. There's obviously like a lot of history right there. So, and the accents, I think the Australian accent is very different, but there's obviously like a lot of similarities in the way we pronounce stuff. And the Americans are definitely crazy with some of the words. The one that really stands out to me is definitely Craig. I remember when I first heard that, I literally couldn't believe it. I thought they were saying Greg. That one really gets me, is Craig. Like, that's so weird to me. But yeah, a lot of them, I think pretty much the same. Like, there's a few that were different, but yeah, it could just be the way I pronounce it, because obviously I consume like a lot of American media, so I guess like sometimes you pick up the pronunciation of the word differently. So if you guys want more reaction videos like this, let me know. But I like videos like this. It's kind of fun. I'm kind of learning more about Australia. So if you guys want more reaction videos like this, drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a great day, everyone.